I have shoes on today. You know what kind of shoes I have? Sperry's?
Yes.
Yeah. They are for your adventuresome seafaring lifestyle, which I don't currently live. And in fact, I live quite the opposite. But if you're interested in pretending like I am, visit Sperry.com.
All right.
Hello.
Well, so welcome to Splain Yourself, the first unscripted episode ever. And actually, let me be fair. Our episodes are not scripted, but we do have kind of like a bulleted list of things to follow, and we don't have that at all. There's a blank piece of paper in front of Michael. I got nothing. And we have Susanna here. Susanna Spearman, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Xana.
Reintroduce yourself. You've already been on our podcast.
Yeah. I was on the podcast with Michael and Sarah. That was awesome, and it was about feminism. We crushed it.
It was a great
It
episode.
was a good episode. But
Xana was episode 9.
Oh, wow. You got the numbers down pat. That's awesome.
got the number right.
So Xana's back, and we had a chunk of time, and we were like, why not wing it with our podcast?
So this is the episode that we shall call the Seinfeld episode. It's
That's
an episode about nothing.
That's right.
Usually we don't do scripts, but we do some level of preparation. For example, I do a little brief quasi pre-interview with the guests to see what they want to talk about and what kind of stories they have to share. And we literally did none of that. Not only that, we don't have a topic prepared.
Nope.
Nor do we have our usual sheets where I make up hilarity. So now we have literally nothing.
There it is.
Except
Seinfeld.
us, which is fantastic.
True.
Also, I like our brains, and I like our brains together, so...
It's a winning combination. We should point out that we are sitting in a freshly soundproofed room. It's not finished yet, but we're surrounded by foam panels, and students did that. And
Those
I'm pretty
echoes
proud
about
of
to
them.
be bye-bye.
That's right.
That's pretty exciting. So Sarah,
Yeah.
we don't have any preparation or script. How are you feeling about this?
A little weird.
Why?
I don't know. I like to have something to go by. I like to have a plan. But I'm not like psycho about it.
Yeah, okay, so like, this is a good question. What are areas where you feel like you want to go in having a plan, and what are areas that you're like, let's fly by the seat of my pants?
That's a great question. We're all teachers, correct? Everyone in the room, teacher?
Everybody.
No.
No? Michael's not?
No.
Blum's like, I went to school for a really long
Yeah,
time.
right. I'm better at studenting, actually.
So, teaching is one of those jobs where, like, one of the key features of what we have to do is planning. I'm wondering, though, what that looks like
All right,
between
Dan,
the three of us.
you want to talk about your level of planning?
Oh,
Go
me
it.
for
Yeah.
school?
Yeah.
I feel like I shouldn't talk about it on a podcast. Okay, so here's the deal. With
Your secret
language...
is safe with us?
With language... Yeah, and the whole internet.
Yeah.
That's great. All of YouTube's. So... With planning my first semester teaching, I had a decent amount of structure. It took me forever to make a lesson plan because things always don't take as long as you expect them to.
Yeah.
I learned that the hard way. I'm getting into a bit of a groove, but it's kind of a lazy groove. I struggle to get work done at home, so a lot of times I'll get to work super early, like 7 o'clock.
I've seen you in
7:15.
here early.
Yeah, and I do my lesson plans for the day.
Nice.
Which is not a good way to do it because it's not super cohesive.
That is
but I
a
kind
way
of,
to do
in
it.
my head, have a plan for what I'm going to do for the week.
Sure.
But sometimes I get overwhelmed or I sleep in and but the thing, I'm getting really good at coming up with ways that, like, my students can learn alongside me.
Sure.
But I mean, I don't always wing it. Like, when I really do sit down and, like, plan out a whole week and stuff, it's like, I'm like the best teacher ever.
Yeah.
Not really, but I don't feel like I'm my best self most of the time. But I've gotten a lot better at just being like, you know what? This is what I have. Life is kind of crazy, and the kids are going to have fun, and they're going to learn something.
Sure.
So.
And I see that in your class. Like, I've never walked by your class and thought, wow, there's a lady without a plan, you know? That's not what your class screams to me at all.
The goal of my class is to have the facade of a plan. To seem like I know what's going to happen.
Fake until you make it.
Yeah,
There's a lot of performance.
improv.
Yeah.
I should do improv.
You frontin'.
I'm fronting.
Yeah. Sarah, you've been teaching probably longer than Xana and I combined. You must have a ton of plans.
Oh yeah, the plan's coming out of my ears. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think this is year 15, and I was listening to you and having flashbacks. My planning was ridiculous my first year. They gave me 3 levels.
3
to
different
teach.
levels of math.
Of math. I taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math my first year. So I planned from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. You know, like it was insane.
Hours.
Yeah, I have a picture of me during that time, and I'm laying on the floor with all my textbooks, all my notebooks spread out in front of me, and Jerry's like in the background watching TV. Let's go like 15 years later, doesn't look like that at all.
Yeah.
So teaching the same thing that I taught last year means I'm building on what I had last year.
Yeah.
So especially with Google Classroom, I can just like my old classes that I've
Just
archived,
copy
I'm like, we're doing that. I might add to it and say we could, you know, let's develop that a little bit. But yeah, I do not spend a lot of time planning outside of school unless there's like a new project idea. I'm going to collaborate with somebody.
But that's something you're usually excited about.
Sure,
more so.
exactly. What about you, Michael?
Ask me if I ever plan anything.
Do you ever plan
No.
anything?
No.
But what about, you were just talking about, we make this punch list for the podcast. You pre-interview guests. That's planning for the podcast.
For the podcast.
Right, because again, that's something that I am super enthused for.
Okay,
right?
so is the question, do you ever plan anything for school?
Yes.
And you're like, no.
No.
Okay, got it.
Let me tell you how this works.
Yeah.
By the seat of my pants is how it works. When I was in graduate school, one of the requirements to keep the pathetic scholarship they gave us was that we teach these classes. So
Yeah.
I go into my dissertation advisor and I was like, hey, Dr. G, man, how do you plan your classes? And he looks at me completely serious and he goes, don't.
Yeah.
And I was
Really?
like, all right, cool. What do you do? So, come on, quit playing. And he was like, nothing. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to get fired from this assistantship, and then I'm going to have to drop out of graduate school. Like, I'm aware I'm repulsive, but this is really like a submarine like I've never seen before. And he was like, if you spend a lot of time writing lectures and doing all this stuff, it's going to take you hours and hours and hours, and your real goal is to graduate from
Your
your
dissertation.
dissertation, write your
Sure,
dissertation
sure.
and leave.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, that's really a big impediment to what I thought teaching was, right? Because especially in the historical profession, traditionally it's all taught by lecture.
Sure.
So he was like, no lecturing. And I was like, oh fudge, I don't know what to do. And I never
Yeah.
taught anything, but it's sort of like, all right, Blum, you're into the classroom.
Right.
I was like,
right.
cool, I got no content. Awesome. So actually what I did was I figured out in graduate school how to teach without very much preparation.
Yeah.
Say I do no preparation is a little bit of an exaggeration.
You're probably going to say that I'm giving you too much credit, but going a little bit Socrates, like
Yes.
kind of coming in and like, these are the conclusions I would hope they would arrive at. So what pins can I put in the balloons of their beliefs to get them there?
So yes, it's a lot of Socratic method based on the common reading, which is what I have to plan. They have to have seen some kind of common text. The text doesn't necessarily have to be reading, but it has to be in history of hip hop, a music
Video or something.
To me, I would never advise teachers to plan too much because teaching is an art, and it is not something that can go, in my opinion, it is not something that can go in a predetermined, rigid order,
Sure.
right? Which is what a plan is.
Well, kind of.
It
But I think
depends on
that
the subject matter,
you would hear other schools of thought that would argue that planning for the types of inquiry that you want your students to do, it does require you to make some predictions. And I think what you have going for you, which a lot of elementary school teachers do not, I mean, you've got a PhD in your subject area. So we're
You can
talking
just
about,
talk.
we're talking about like high levels of knowledge and expertise.
Right.
Whereas if you're teaching third grade, this does not mean that you're an expert in any of the subjects that you teach.
Sure.
In fact, it's actually kind of more of an indicator that you're not an expert in any of those subjects.
Okay.
Throwing elementary school teachers under the bus, but I was one, so I can do that. So planning for them means I've got to wrap my head around this content. And my first year teaching, I'd never taught 6th, 7th, or 8th grade math before. So for me to go in and have the level of confidence that you have walking into your class, it took a lot of pre-reading and walking through the stuff on my own.
I would also like to point something out, though,
Yeah.
that you're a math teacher.
Yeah.
I'm a language teacher, and he's a history teacher.
This is different.
So we're kind of on the scale of like from humanities to math and science.
Yeah.
Like it goes Blum, me, Sarah,
Yeah.
right? Because there is some science in math in language learning, because language learning is everything.
Yeah.
But and then Blum, you have a lot of information that you want to impart and a lot of discussion type things, right?
Right.
And then like Sarah actually has to teach like concepts,
Right.
Which I mean, like you do. We all teach concepts,
Right.
but like if you don't get
Skills.
a concept or skill in Sarah's class, then you're gonna miss out all of the practical application.
Right. And I think the misnomer is that I want to spend a lot of time imparting information on them. I actually want to spend as little time talking as possible.
Right, but your level of knowledge still, like for them to do what you want them to do, which is to work through this stuff on their own, right? Like you still have to know what you want them to be aiming for.
Yes.
And I would say not every teacher is in that position. And you're more likely to find teachers like that at the high school level, in your kind of department.
And the college level.
Right, exactly. As you get higher, you've got just expertise on expertise on expertise.
And I really think that my real value in the classroom is the ability to ask questions,
Yes.
right, and then to adjust quickly.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Improv.
Yeah, it's a little bit of improv, but it's also kind of having rehearsed where this goes
Sure.
in previous classes.
Yeah.
Right? So I've taught the first half of American history 268,000 times. So I have a real good idea of where this is going. So
Exactly.
it's partially built your idea of building on experience, but it's at the same time, I can never assume that classes per semester or per year will be the same.
Right.
So.
Right.
But you
That's a
understand
good
the really
point.
important question is when you teach the first half of American history, do you talk about tariffs?
Do I?
Oh
Because
no.
if you do,
Where are we going?
I'm just being sad.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I took AP US history in high school, and I hated it so much because I love history. But they were
Right.
teaching to the test,
Right.
which is garbage.
Well,
yeah.
if it makes you feel any better, I never give tests. So I'm certainly not teaching to any test. And tariffs are on history on a big national level,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm not so interested in this kind of stuff as I am sort of the grassroots or the bottom
Yeah,
up. So I'd be much
yeah.
more interested in how
People
people
responded to tariffs.
or I would argue that for most people during that time, that tariffs probably were not something that was heavily on their radar, right?
But taxes or something.
But
Maybe
taxes,
more so.
yeah, or even more interesting to me is how they evaded taxes. I really,
Sneaky colonists.
yeah, I like how they do that. That kind of stuff is interesting to me. I still like how people evade taxes currently. I think that kind of like resistance to authority is really, really interesting.
It's a seemingly passive, active rebellion.
Yes. And I think a lot of the world works this way, where there is some kind of structure of authority, and then there are people who kind of passive or actively resist it. So we were just discussing why these students won't go to lunch. Because we think, as the authority figures, going to lunch should be what?
What you
Like a
want?
privilege.
Great and fun,
Yeah.
and of course that's what's best for them, except for the students were just lollygagging there. So they're offering us like some form of passive resistance.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's really interesting.
Can't make me do
Positive.
nothing, man.
Yeah.
Can't tell me what to do.
Totally.
Well, the question then to me is clearly we see that lunch is in their best interest,
Yeah.
except for they don't see it that way. So how do they see the world, and why would lunch not be in their best interest?
I think it might even just come down to they don't want to move. Like
Right.
physically.
That's
They want to stay where they are.
And I love how some authority figures would stop at, you're here and I want you to be somewhere else. Whereas, it occurred to us, we're like, I wonder why they're still talking. And then Michael was like, I was like, I can go yell at them. And Michael was like, no, you don't need to yell at them. It's good for them to interact socially. Like,
Yeah.
Sometimes, I think other times, it's completely appropriate to say, I don't care about how you feel. Get out. Like,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that too.
Yes, and there is like a strange border there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
One of the best bits of parenting I've ever seen is my wife. I guess they're my friends now, Trish and Jacob is like these strong butt size. He's a very physically like large guy, like 6'6", and has a medium frame. He's very nice to me, but he is very much like the strong but silent type.
There you go.
So one of his kids was whining one day, and he was eating. We were having a barbecue at their house. They used to have this big house when we lived in Memphis. And he was listening to her whine, and he was eating, and he just put the fork down, and he looked up like completely dead serious. He said, "Be quiet. I don't care what you want." And I was like, "Whoa."
Love it.
And I was like, "Whoa, that was, I don't know what just happened there."
Right.
And then I was like, you know what, that's really great what I
Yeah.
just witnessed, because
Yeah.
what is he telling her, essentially,
Yeah.
is that, like, there is an order of things around here,
Sure.
and that the world doesn't revolve around you.
Which is all kids need to really hear for the first however many years of their lives. They're sociopaths.
35.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the number right there. Yeah.
First 35 years of their life.
Oh, Oh, you mean the world doesn't? I learned that at 35. I missed the memo. When I turned 35.
There you go.
This world's all
It's all right,
about me.
Plum. There's still hope for you. Says the 24-year-old.
Right.
So weird. So none of us have kids.
This is true.
What is scary for you guys about having kids / do you plan to?
That it could happen. That's what's scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's
What about you, Blum?
scary about having kids is we end up with a monster.
Yeah.
Honestly.
You know that's very unlikely.
Well,
It's not random chance. It's not like the stork's bringing you some question mark of a baby.
Right. No, it's not random chance, but at the same time, like, what if, and it's not Lauren who's going to screw this up, it's going to be me.
What if you screw your kid up?
What if I screw my kid
That's
up?
got to be every parent's worst fear, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then, like,
They turn into a sociopath.
Right.
not even they turn into a sociopath, but they're out of control. Right.
So, is there any mitigating that? Like, could you analyze what makes a monster, right? How do parents screw up their kids?
You
And
could.
you just don't do that stuff.
Right. Except for, I think it's inevitable that you screw up your kids in some form or fashion.
Sure.
Agreed.
And-
But not like, my kid's now in jail for the rest of their life. Like, you know.
Right. And then their kids, even at, 13, 14, 15, have some element of free will, right?
Sure.
So even your best parenting efforts may lead you to a crazy person.
Absolutely.
Well,
And
they have
then
free
the-
will and brains that are being drowned in hormones.
Right.
Teenagers.
Sure.
And horrible influences, right?
Yes.
And then my other thing is how much of personality or behavior is genetic.
Nature versus nurture.
The ultimate
Right.
question.
And I don't know, I've never read any science on this, so I don't know what scientists think. But is it
I have.
possible that maybe your environment doesn't really matter that much and that most of how you will behave is already predetermined from your genes?
So there are twin studies that would suggest that partially that's true. However, I don't think that you can discount environment either. So there are also studies to suggest environment. So I don't know. Twin studies are weird to me. I got all this in my psych
Right.
stuff because of my major that I'm not using currently.
I mean, sort of. Aren't we all
Secondarily,
psychologists,
there you
psychiatrists
go.
here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nope.
The crazy house of next.
So, but that's the question. If you don't have twin studies and you're just thinking about you and Lauren and your kid that's not born yet, like,
Well, maybe
the question of genes versus environment may be an unhelpful question to even consider, because you and Lauren, whether you're transmitting things to this kid genetically or through the way that you're handling the kid in your environment,
Right.
it's probably gonna work out fine either way.
It
right?
may, but Xana asked what I'm scared of. What I'm scared of is
That's true. We're talking about fear.
right.
Yep.
What I'm scared
Yep.
of is it doesn't work
Right.
out fine. Like
Right.
my ideal is like I have this son, right, and I raise him to be like a noble savage.
There you go.
Right. So this is what I envision. I get like the toughest kid in school, but he's like really polite and academically inclined. And I think that's a very
Perfect.
So you want a perfect child.
Right. But like, so I think there is a very fine line between creating like an alpha male kid and then like one sneeze and you're into maniac. Right? And then everything's gone wrong from there.
Sure. And then there's the sidebar of the fact that, like, anything you envision for your kid as far as this is what I hope my kid is when he's this age or this age, it's probably not going to work out. Like,
Right.
My brother was not into any of the things my dad was hoping he would be into, you know? But
Despite his best
exactly. But he is a well-rounded, yet healthy individual. Like, you know, all you can hope for is that your kid is a decent person and is, you know, living a pretty chill existence. Like,
Right.
that's it. But I love that idea of, okay, wait, describe your kid again.
He's like the biggest brute you've ever seen. Like just like he's there's always one high school like, that kid, I don't mess around with that kid. Like I'll just say hi and move on.
Sure.
Like that kid, but then he's like actually really polite and academically inclined.
Okay.
So he's like a
awesome.
noble savage.
Where is this coming from?
I made it up. It's not coming from anything in particular.
Okay. So you're not thinking like, here are the things that I wasn't when I was a kid, but I want that for my kid?
Maybe a little bit, because
Yeah.
I am neither like an alpha male guy, nor in high school was I particularly academically inclined.
Right.
Or or doing any inclined towards anything really. So maybe it's a little bit of that.
A little bit of a projection of
Yes.
innermost
Living
desires.
vicariously.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh my gosh.
What about you, Xana? Kid, fear,
Oh
go.
gosh. I mean, it's very similar to my goals. Like, I just don't. I know that it is inevitable that I will wound my child.
Yeah.
And be a person. Being a person, it makes me predisposed to like being a jerk sometimes.
Sure.
And it's funny because I'm in my 20s, right? So
Yeah.
like a lot of people say your 20s, you kind of like start to deconstruct your childhood and sort of like reconstruct, and so I'm in that, very much in the thick of that right now.
Yep.
I had awesome parents. Like my parents are great, but I'm still like a little bit crazy, and I'm like working through some of my relationship with them and stuff like that. It's like I'm thinking, I'm like, wow, my parents like loved me and provided for me and like gave me opportunities and like gave me good counsel and taught me how to be a hard worker and all this stuff, and I still am like going to therapy and like crying, you know, and I'm like a crazy person. Like if I had a kid, they just like I'm just like so nervous because I'm very passionate, so I like I feel very strongly. I can be very impulsive.
Yeah.
And
I don't think that's what turns kids crazy. So, also, I don't think you're crazy.
Right.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. To me,
to
therapy doesn't make you crazy.
Right.
No.
And I also go, so I don't think this makes you crazy at all. But the other thing is, I think that what we've learned as we've all collectively gotten older is your parents probably did their best, but to expect them to be perfect is like much too high of a bar, right? Because people are not perfect, and your parents are people.
Right.
Furthermore, if you see, my theory is always, and this is completely without any backing, is that if I see somebody who looks too perfect, it is just a cover for something that is really atrociously wrong.
So true.
So true, and I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say, too, in response to what you said, Xana, about your fear about your kid, is that mistakes you make with your kid are probably better than, like, making mistakes with your child.
It's better than trying to be
I think better than trying to do it all correctly, because that will create some neuroticism for you and your kid.
Because they'll learn from
Right. But it's not just making mistakes, and this is where I think parents have to actually, like, you can't just fall into whatever your natural instinct is, like, and this, you know, we've talked about this before, your first gut instinct as a parent is probably wrong, right?
Yes.
Because your first gut instinct about anything, to me, is probably wrong. But if you screw up with your kid, take it a step further and help your kid and you learn from that and say, hey, I screwed up. Can you forgive me? You know, and this incredible opportunity to have this picture of grace between you and your kid, which I think is where a lot of, like, my parents' generation, for them, that was taboo. Like, talking to your kids about your own failings, right? Like, feelings and failings, like the ways we screw up. We have to be perfect in front of our kid because we're their role model, right? And if we screw up, and they see it, of course we're going to see them screw up, right?
Like,
but let's not talk about that, right? Because, and I don't know if that's what my parents were thinking, and I don't know if that's even accurate, but I don't remember a lot of, like, let's talk about how we're all human and we all, you know, like,
Well, and one thing I have been thinking about a lot in terms of, like, on a macro scale, in terms of, like, civilization and progress and humanity and all that stuff, is, like, the hope is not that we fix all the problems, right? The hope is that we do better than our parents. Yeah. And our kids do better than us. Yeah. Right? So, like, in that sense, there are ways that I probably know myself better than my parents did when they were my age. Oh, absolutely. And have healthier ways of communicating and relating than my parents did, because they gave me an environment where not all, but a lot of my emotions were validated. Yeah. And I was given a good education, and I'm articulate, and I'm not afraid of being myself. And there's a lot of ways that my parents gave me the freedom to be myself in ways that their parents didn't, because that's not what they were thinking about. No, that wasn't what was valued. And so in the same way that my parents gave me more chances to be myself than my parents did, or their parents did, like, I want to give my kids the freedom to, and I mean, not just to be themselves. I know that's not the only thing that matters when you're parents. Also, structure. Right. And, like, don't be an idiot. Don't be mean. Like,
or selfish.
Right, exactly. Right. But just, you know, I guess if I really step away from the anxiety, I'm like, you know what? I think I'd actually be a really great mom. And, like,
I think so, too.
And I think that if I go in hoping, like, I want to give my kid the opportunity to do better than I did.
Right.
And not necessarily in a pressure way. Of
No.
like, be more amazing than me. But like, no,
Right.
just like see the world differently. Be more, I don't know.
Sure. And
Go
you're-
and do
yeah.
is what you
Go
want.
and do
That's right.
things, yeah.
Go and do and
Yeah.
learn from my experience and see if you can, do it better than I did. And I've had conversations with my parents since I've become an adult, and they're really enriching. And I thought, we could have done this when I was a
Yeah, why-
maybe, I don't know.
why
Who
couldn't we-
knows how I would have taken it when
Yeah.
I was
Do you ever think that maybe they didn't do that because you were really annoying?
maybe. That's
I
very
think that all the
possible.
time, which is part of the thing I'm working through in therapy.
Yeah.
It's like, that whole sense of just like everything that's wrong with me is because I'm a crappy person.
No, I don't think it's
That's
because,
sort of
yeah.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
working through. I'm
yeah.
not saying that is the thing. But it's
Yeah,
like,
and my therapy to myself is that we're all crappy people. We're all crappy people. It's just a daily system of working through being a crappy person, right?
Yeah, I don't know that I think teenagers are necessarily crappy people, but I think they can be really annoying.
Sure.
yeah.
As we evidence here every day.
Sure.
And
I
so-
love you guys. It's
Absolutely.
fine.
Yeah.
except for some of you are annoying. And then
We have a list.
So it's sort of like, do I want to go into this mature, kind of thoughtful, nuanced conversation with 15-year-old Michael, who is just like
Yeah.
self-absorbed
Sure.
and farting all the time?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Even more difficult with a 3-year-old who doesn't,
Right.
really have any concept of that kind of level of
Yeah.
conversation anyway. So yeah, absolutely. But I think worrying about making mistakes as a parent is probably not fruitful because
Right.
of course you're going to.
And
yeah.
that's another reason. I mean, it's like not that I will eventually just figure out how to be amazing all the time and just kind of reach nirvana or whatever. But I do hope that by the time, if I have kids, which I don't know if I will. I mean, I don't know if that's in the stars for me. But
Sure.
if I do have kids someday, I'm hoping that by then I will at least have had some time to grapple with my fear of making mistakes.
Absolutely.
Just in general, but also as somebody who's sort of responsible for another
Sure.
human.
Absolutely.
I hope that, like, my best hope is that by the time I have kids, if I do, I will just kind of be a little bit more gracious with myself
yeah.
and just not afraid.
Absolutely. And I think one thing, I don't have kids and I don't know if I will, but I do know that my sister and her children and my brother and we all live nearby. And I think for them, what has been huge, like best thing that you can do as a parent, I think, is to surround yourself with a network of people who can come alongside you and do the thing with you, because trying to do it alone insane.
It takes a village.
Absolutely.
Also, you don't want to be the only voice that your kid hears, too. Like,
That's
there's
another
so
thing.
much value
Have a
to
community.
having
Yes.
people who may
Yes.
not be on the same page with you about everything.
Yeah.
Who can, like, there were some people in my life when I was young and, like, in middle school even that, like, sort of contradicted my mom's voice in certain ways, but I think in ways that were
Helpful.
healthy. For
That
me.
was absolutely me. And so
Yeah.
those teen years when I was super annoying,
Yeah.
there were other voices in my life because I didn't listen to anything my parents said. So yeah, having other people that you trust, right? That's
Right.
the key.
Right.
I trust you, but I know my kid is telling you stuff that he's not
Right.
telling me, and I'm fine with that, right?
Don't just hand off your kid to anybody,
Absolutely,
but, like-
absolutely, yeah.
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 Oh man, I'm sad because we're running out of time.
Alrighty.
Episodes about nothing are great.
Are they?
Yeah.
It's 12:22, so I don't know what that means for teachers of third period. What do you guys think?
We start at 12:30.
Oh, well then, yeah, let's do this.
Okay.
I'm never late for class though, so you know
Never.
we gotta. I'm
Never.
never. I'm always on time, guys. If you're listening to this, don't tell Mr. Rick that I'm late every day.
Or I like the idea that we'll be late to class to do this.
That's right. Absolutely. This is the most important thing.
Edumacation, no, we're doing a podcast that has 35 subscribers with a fake sponsorship that I made up.
By the way, everyone, subscribe to our YouTube page.
Yeah,
and
please.
Tell your friends.
Yeah,
Tell
please.
your
We're
friends.
trying to get to like 50. That would be great.
Yes. And then we might be able to get a real sponsorship.
Dude,
So true.
I don't know if Sperry's heard our podcast
I bet next
yet.
high school would sponsor us.
We should send Sperry an email. Just be like, I don't know if you know this, but you're
We
getting
could
free
fix
advertising.
sponsoring.
That's right.
Yeah, how do you think that email would go? Dear Sperry, I've been making up advertisements that aren't really that flattering about you for the last 6 months. Would you care to advertise our podcast? Would you care to sponsor us?
Oh my gosh.
Like, how do you think Sperry is going to be?
I don't know.
like?
They could say maybe if you get to 1,000 subscribers, and then
Or-
we give you these canned ads.
Or cease and desist letter.
There
and
you
then we have nothing in return, which is
That's
probably,
more likely.
Yeah.
More
Thanks
likely.
for just bursting my bubble there,
Yeah.
Michael.
Right. My plan actually was to continue to do this because
Yeah.
I think it's funny, and I'm a one-trick pony.
Sure.
And then I found that on it, which is something I have endorsed in the past on the podcast and endorsed in real life, actually just has a form we can fill out.
Really?
And I was like, oh, I know how to fill out a form.
Yeah.
Sweet. And when I mess it up, I'll just send it over to Sarah.
There you go.
'cause she's the responsible one. So then we could see if they would really sponsor us, and then we kick the fake Sperry ads to the curb.
There you go.
And we get a bunch of products for free, and then we just spend a lot of episodes like, hey, I tried this new product. How did it make you feel?
I'm all about it.
And then we go
great.
from there.
Did you fill out the form?
No.
Oh, okay.
Ask me why.
Why?
34 subscribers. That was one of the things they asked is how many people listen to your podcast, and I was like, oh, that's we're
But
coming
see,
up a little
here's the
short.
More
deal.
people listen
More people
than
listen.
subscribe, though.
Yeah,
But do we-
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we could figure out logistics of it. It's like, how many Twitter followers do you have? 18? See
Are we
you
at
guys.
18?
I don't know. See you
We
guys
had
later.
way more, and then I deleted them because
So
I thought we were
I
being
gave up
scammed.
social media for Lent, but after Lent, I'm gonna spend.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I've just.
How's Lent going?
Oh my
Just
gosh,
social media?
Just social media.
Yeah.
I like to believe in my best self a little too much. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to believe in myself right now, which is that I can give up social media and probably nothing else. And
And you're
it's been
doing
great.
well.
Yeah, it's
Good.
awesome. I love it. I love not being on social media. I may just give it up forever.
I think that's really good advice. We talked about this a little bit
We
last
have talked about this.
last episode.
Like, I'll have the things and I'll check it periodically, but what I found was I got off of social media for January with Rudo.
Yeah.
And then I would like, for February, I was back on social media and I was like, I would find myself just scrolling on Instagram and like Facebook.
It's mindless. You're not
yeah,
even,
and it's like I'm tired and I
Yeah.
have anxiety, so of course that's like a numbing thing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
And so
I think it actually increases your anxiety.
It
of some
does.
level,
I think it
because
does.
you're like, oh, look how well this person's life is
Yeah.
going, and I'm sitting here
it's just a
struggling with this.
lazy thing
Yeah.
that you
Right.
can do.
And for me, I think the scrolling is me trying to get a connection, and maybe I'm not getting one.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts and I listen to music and I mean, I've been watching a lot of TV and stuff, so it's not that I'm like off the grid, yo, you know.
Right.
But I was like, I like, it's nice. I don't have to. I don't know what's going on in the politics right now, and
Now, are you including radio in social media?
no,
Okay.
no. I mean, but I don't listen to this. So here's I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. Of like, I feel like a bad citizen because I'm not informed, right?
Oh.
Because there's a lot going on. But I have to also understand that where I'm at right now, it's healthy for me
Sure.
to kind of unplug.
You need a break.
Like, I'm not going to build a career as an ostrich when it comes to politics. Just
Right.
like, head, sand, what up?
Right.
But like, I also recognize right now I've got a lot going on in my personal life.
It
This
is a
job is
flood.
wonderful, but super stressful. And I just need to be okay with the fact that, like, I don't want to hear something dumb that our president said about a shooting.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to hear something great he said about a school shooting. Because there was a school shooting.
Right.
And I don't want to listen. I work at a school. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
I'm
having to
with you.
give myself that grace right now.
That self-awareness is key. Awesome.
Well, this was fun.
Lots of fun.
Thanks for having me. I love hanging out with you guys.
Well, we
we're the
appreciate
best.
you.
Even if there wasn't a
We're the
microphone.
best. All right, I like that.
Even if there wasn't a microphone and you guys had said, hey,
I didn't
we're
real-
having lunch together.
I know, let's just talk.
Just hang out.
That's
didn't-
kind of what this was.
I didn't realize I was doing a podcast with DJ Khaled over there. Isn't that his
DJ Khaled.
We the best music.
I like sometimes to talk myself up so that maybe I'll feel better about myself.
It balances.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Fake it till you make it.
That's
I know
right.
you like that.
I do.
I listen to
That's
your
a good
podcast where you
life
talk about
philosophy. Yep, absolutely.
Cool beans.
Absolutely.
All
what
right.
time it is.
Uh,
Ooh,
time-
I better be running.
Y'all probably
Time to go.
ought to run on.
Well, thank you, Xana. Do you want to give out the plugs? Because I don't have anything written down.
I know our Twitter plug. So
Go
you
for
go
it.
to Twitter and you type in @Splain_yourself and you'll find our Twitter page. And we are on YouTube. If you just search for Splain Yourself, you'll find us. And we've got 10, count them 10
Wait.
episodes up on YouTube right now.
No,
we
didn't you
have
have
more
11?
than that recorded. I'm just getting, you
You've
know.
got 11,
We don't have a tech
right?
person. Oh, wait, is it 11 now?
You posted John's.
That's right. We are now at
I'm
11.
clearly Explain Yourself's biggest fan.
Yeah,
That's
you
right.
kind of are. Thank you, Zana.
That's right. And as always, guard your grill and always be ready to explain yourself.
Yes. Awesome.